You can use whatever medium you have. So
Okay.
I'm using watercolors, and you can see I have a very inexpensive set over here. I have two
Okay.
little brushes.
Okay.
You may want to get yourself a paper plate like this one. We're making our own color wheel. So if you happen to have a paper plate, that's very handy.
Okay. Well, let me go off and look.
Okay. Hi, Vivian.
Hello.
How nice to see you.
It's great to be here. I'm going to be working with pastels.
Oh, lovely. So if you're going to be working with pastel, then you won't be mixing with a brush like I will be. Oh, look, there's a kitty sitting in Elizabeth's chair. That's hilarious. So you'll be mixing using the primary. So set out your yellow, blue, and red, and you'll be combining them in layers.
Okay.
Derek, what kind of paint do you have, or what are you using?
Well, I didn't know this was going to be watercolor. I have watercolor pencils
Okay,
that I was thinking of using.
that's perfect.
Okay.
You can use any medium, so it really doesn't matter. I'm just using watercolor. I figured that's probably what people would have at home. But watercolor pencils, colored pencils, pastels.
I have some pastels also. So, but I'm almost thinking the pencils today.
Excellent. And if you happen to have a paper plate, that will come in real handy.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay, so I'm gonna get us started. We'll probably have a few more people chime in as we get going. It's just now 2 o'clock. So before we get to work, I want to thank Amber, the Adult Services Librarian, for setting this up. And she may be popping in periodically with information. So she is in the background. If anyone has any questions, you can open up a chat box and chat her, or you can just ask her directly. So before I get going, let's give her a round of applause. Yay, Amber.
Thank you.
And I'd like to thank the City of Clearwater and Clearwater Library for hosting these events and meeting the needs of our people, even when the library is not open to the public as much as it used to be. So we have a great library system. Let us never take it for granted. Okay, so you guys, I believe, are familiar with Zoom, but just in case, I have 2 other cameras. One is called Palette, one is called Easel View. So whenever I have to mix a color, I'm going to transfer you to the palette so you can see that by spotlighting it. And whenever I put a color on the paper, I'm going to transfer everyone's attention to Easel View. If you would like at any point to see all 3, you just click the gallery view. That's in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, I believe. Right now, it'll either say speaker view or gallery view. So if it's on speaker view, then all you see is me or whoever's speaking. If it's on gallery view, then you get to see everybody. So we'll keep it on gallery view when we're talking to everybody, and on speaker view when there's something specific you need to see. We're going to do 2 things today. We're going to start off by making our own color wheel. The color wheel is crucial when you're a painter. The color wheel helps you to find the color that you're looking for. So when you're working from a reference photo, if you want to mix a certain color, then you use the color wheel. As you grow as an artist, you start to use the color as the basis for your painting. So when I'm doing a painting, I'll look at the color wheel and say, okay, I'm gonna start off with the complements of red and green. And how do I do a whole painting based on that? I'm gonna mute you guys. Okay, so, for example, this is one of my paintings. That's a red and green palette. Now, looking at this, you wouldn't automatically think, oh, red and green palette. Instead, it looks harmonious. There's a lot of different color that you see, but each of these colors is related to red and green. And I'll get into that more when we make our own color wheel. You'll see how it starts to become the basis of an artist's choice when they're making a painting. Again, I'm using watercolor today, but whatever color media you happen to have at home is what you should use. So how you mix may be a little different than how I'm mixing. When we're finished with our color wheel, we're gonna make a quick little painting or sketch of these colorful carrots. And this will get you in the habit of mixing color, and will also, if you're using paintbrushes, get you in the habit of using the paintbrush a little differently. So we'll do a fun painting. Are there any questions before we begin? Okay, perfect. If I'm moving too quickly, give me a thumbs down and I'll slow down. If you're all caught up and I ask thumbs up if you're caught up, then you give me a thumbs up. Okay? Excellent. Okay, so we're gonna start off with either a clean sheet of paper or with a paper plate. And I'm gonna clip the paper plate up and use it so that way you guys get an idea of what it looks like. Okay. Now, if you're painting at home, you want to have primary red, yellow, and blue. And it really doesn't matter what medium. If you're using pencil or pastel, you still want to have primary red, yellow, and blue. So I'm going to start off by taking a brush, dipping it in water, and just putting a little bit of water on the yellow paint. So in watercolor, you do this to activate the paint if it's a dry pan like this. So I'm just activating the paint, waking it up. If you're using acrylic paint, you want to thin your paint down. You don't want to use a lot of intense color, so make sure it's a thinner paint. Now, with your yellow coated brush, we're going to start off by painting just a little circle. So imagine that this is a clock face, and at 12 noon, or what would be about 1 o'clock, we're going to put a circle of pure yellow. Now, this is unadulterated primary yellow. Okay, so you have yellow on your brush, if you're using a brush. So we're going to mix a little bit of water with that yellow. I'm going to move you to the spotlight here. So I'm just getting a little bit of water. I still have yellow on my brush, and I'm putting some of that water into the pan for mixing. And then I'm taking a small amount of red. I'm just waking up the red. So I have a little bit of red on the brush, and I'm mixing it with the yellow. Now, what I'm looking for is a true orange, an orange that's half yellow, half red, or equal. So the true orange, I'm going to put at the 3 o'clock. So right about here. So it's going to go at about where the 3 o'clock position would be. And that's true orange. Now there's a space between the yellow and the orange. If you're using colored pencils and you don't have a true orange, then you would layer yellow and then layer red very lightly on top of it. The same with pastel. If you're using pastel, it's a yellow circle and a little bit of red pigment on top, and you would blend it with your finger. Okay. Next, I'm going to lift up a little more yellow and mix it in with a color that's on my brush and make a circle in between these two, which would be yellow-orange. So it's mostly yellow with a very small amount of red that tints it orange. So you can see the difference between pure yellow, yellow-orange, and pure orange. Okay, so once you have those 3 colors in place, dip your brush in the red, add a little more red to your orange mixture, and the next color right underneath the orange is going to be orangish red. Now, orangish red looks very similar to the orange, but it's a lot more red. So you want to have mostly red with a little bit of yellow on your brush. And that's going to hit at about the 3:30 or 4 o'clock position on the clock face.
The wall abrasion formula. It actively builds a protective layer over.
Okay, everybody's caught up. Good. All right. So when you're caught up, rinse your brush, get all of the paint out of the brush, wipe it on a paper towel or something. We want to make sure there's no yellow paint left on the brush. And then we're gonna wake up that red and get just pure red on the paintbrush. So pure red paint. Okay, and when you're ready, we're gonna put a pure red circle at about the 4 o'clock position on our color wheel. So this gives us primary red, primary yellow, and then in between them, we have yellow orange, true orange, and orangish red. So yellow and red are the two primaries here. Okay, you may want to make little notes in case you're not able to see this later, but Y is the primary, so I made the letter Y big. Red is a primary, the letter's big. Orange is a secondary, and then the tertiary colors are hyphenated. So that's yellow, orange, red, orange. Whenever you have a tertiary color, it has a hyphen in it, so that's how you know which are tertiary. Secondary are the colors you make when you're mixing the primaries. So primaries are yellow, red, and blue. Secondaries would be the green, orange, and violet. So the next color we're going to mix is going to be violet, pure violet. So the way to do that is violet is half red and half blue. So in your palette, we already have red. Red is on the paintbrush. We're going to put a little bit of red on the palette. And then wake up the blue. Take a little bit of blue, mix it with the red. And that will give us pure violet on the brush. So we take that paint to our color wheel. And skip a spot, and in the 6:30 or 7 o'clock position, we're going to make a circle of pure violet. Violet is clearly not blue and not red. It's a mix of the two. So try to make sure you have true violet. Now, when you're ready, pick up a little red with your brush and mix that with the color that's still on your brush and fill in that empty spot between the red and the violet. This color is red violet. Red violet looks a lot different than pure red. You can see pure red right here. Red violet is a cross between true violet and red.
That's the plum cover color, isn't it, Sean?
What color?
Plum. I call it plum.
Yes, yes, it's very plummy, or very eggplanty. Okay, when you're ready, dip your paintbrush in the blue paint and it will combine with the red that's still on your paintbrush. And we're going to make a blue violet. Now, blue violet will go in about the 8 o'clock position. Blue violet should very clearly have a little bit of red in it, but be mostly blue. You can see the difference between, I'll hold it closer to the camera. You can see the difference between true violet right here, blue violet, and red violet. If you're working in pastel, you may have to layer blue on top in order to make it look more blue violet. Okay. All right. So when you reach this point, rinse your brush. You want to make sure you're starting off with a clean brush. We're getting rid of all the red. And now we're going to dip our brush into pure primary blue. Get unadulterated blue. And the blue goes in what would probably be the 9 o'clock position, if this were a clock. And the blue, you can see, is clearly different than the blue violet. So here's the blue violet. Okay. Now, take a little bit of the blue paint, put it in your palette someplace, and then put a little yellow paint and we're making green. So the green will be going at the 11 o'clock position. We're skipping a spot. And pure green will look nothing like the blue at all. Okay. So pure green depending on which yellow and which blue you use, may range from Kelly green to clover green. Dip your paintbrush in blue this time. Let it mix with the green that's on your brush and fill in a circle between the green and the blue, which is going to look teal, like the color of the Gulf of Mexico. It's going to be blue-green. So blue-green is a lot different than true green. You can see it's a lot cooler. Okay, now last color, and you don't have to have a clean brush for this. Dip your brush in the yellow, and even with the green that's on your brush, fill in a spot in the 12 o'clock position. If it's really dark, dab it a little, take some of the paint off. What we're looking for is yellow-green. Yellow-green is like a very, very light green. That's mostly yellow with a tiny, tiny bit of blue. Okay. So what you have just made is a color wheel that has the primary yellow, primary red, primary blue, the secondaries of orange, violet, and green, and then the tertiaries of yellow, green, yellow, orange, red, violet, and blue, green. Also, there's a whole aspect of color. That's color temperature. And on the color wheel, half of the wheel is very warm. So by warm, think fiery colors, yellows, reds, oranges. The other half of the wheel is very cool. So think shadow colors, greens, blues, violets, and so forth. So that's warm, that's cool. Now you've also made a warm and a cool version of each color. So here you have true yellow, a warmer version, which is yellow-orange, and a cooler version, yellow-green. You have true orange, a warmer version, yellow-orange, cooler version, if there were such a thing, reddish-orange. You have true red, warmer version, red-orange, cooler version, red-violet. You have true violet, warmer version, cooler version. You have true blue, warmer version, blue-violet, cooler version, blue-green. And you have true green, warmer version, yellow-green, cooler version, blue-green. Why is this important? Well, if you were painting, let's say, a tree in full sunlight, the leaves of the tree that are lit by the sun would be yellow and yellow-green. The actual color of the leaves would probably be green, and then the shadows underneath the leaves would be blue and blue-green. So you would probably use all three to show one subject. Now, the complements are exactly opposite each other on the color wheel. So all of these colors are complements What artists most often do is play with the complements. Let's do an experiment here real quick. Human beings love the compliments. Our eyes are geared towards the compliments. So stare intently at this blue dot. Just stare intently. Do not blink. Don't look away. Remember, I can see you. Stare intently. All right. Now, what after image do you see? Look at that little halo. You'll probably see a little halo on the page. Is that halo orangish? So blue, the opposite would be this color. You probably saw something close to that. Now, this is also responsible for the red flash or the green flash that you see when you watch the sunset, because we're watching the sun as it goes down and dips below the horizon. It reflects the Earth's shadow, and we see red, and the red stimulates the rods and cones in our eyes. And as soon as that red disappears, we're left with a green flash. So let's try it. Here's red. Stare intensely at the red, intensely. Try not to blink, don't look away. Now, you'll see an after image. I didn't see it that time. Probably didn't stare at it long enough. You're supposed to stare at it for 30 seconds. This is an artist parlor trick, and is why I don't get invited to dinner parties anymore.
Oh, yes, you do.
Stare, stare, stare. All right, now.
I see it. Oh my goodness. I never knew about it before.
Isn't that amazing? So that is probably the color that you'll see. The same thing happens when you stare too long at the sun and you blink and look away and you see these purplish ghosts image. That's the rods and cones in your eyes making up for it. So as a painter, that means you have a secret weapon to make your paintings far more interesting to people. So artists often use what's called a complementary palette or a split complementary palette. And that means we use colors that human eyes just find so delicious that they're compelled. And if you've ever looked at a painting and said to yourself, there's something about that painting I can't quite put my finger on, then it's probably the color choices. And let me give you a few examples. Now, a complementary palette means that you use the complement of yellow, which is violet, and a warmer and cooler version of both. Warmer and cooler version of both. So you would use these 6 colors plus black and white. So I'm gonna take you guys off. Oh, here, I'll use this. I think this will be easier. I'm gonna use this camera and I'll show you a few examples. So here is current painting I'm working on. What's the big color pattern that you see?
To me, it's blue and orange.
Yes, you are exactly correct. So this is orange and blue. So what you're looking at is true orange and true blue up here. But then there's warmer and cooler versions of orange and blue. So a warmer version of orange is this yellow orange. You see the yellow orange in there. A warmer version of the blue is some of that blue, blue violet up in the sky. You see the blue violet in the clouds.
And
then,
Sean, may I ask, did you do it on purpose, or was this a photograph and nature did it? Or did you use your knowledge of the colors when you made this painting?
well, now that's a good question. I did it on purpose, and I did base it on a photo. But what I do is I look at the scene. So if the scene is a reference photo, then I look at the reference and I think, okay, what are the two big colors that I'm looking at here? And if it's red or green, then that's what I base it on. Sometimes I set up a still life, and I do the same thing with the still life. Let's grab a still life. Now, this one may not be so obvious. When you look at this still life, what are the two big colors that jump out at you?
It's the to me it's bright yellow, but it's also sort of that orangey red. That's how it looks like to me.
Well, it's yellow and purple.
Oh, is it a purple?
Yes.
Okay,
it's
maybe
yellow
my
and purple.
camera.
So looking at the still life, you see true yellow, and you see a yellow-orange color and a yellow-green color, mostly in the lemons.
Right,
Then
right.
The purple, you don't really see true violet so much as you see red violet. There's some true violet and blue violet in some of the shadows.
Shadows,
So it's not real clear, but there's some color harmony here. There's something about it that, you know, will just draw your eye. Another example. So going back to the one I introduced in the beginning, this is, it's wrapped up, so you're getting a lot of reflection, but this is red and green. And I'm gonna put this here so you can see it, and then pull out my color wheel. And you can see there's a little bit of true red. Let me turn the camera. Okay, so there's a little bit of true red here and there. Then there's reddish orange right here, and reddish violet. So you can see the reddish violet. So we have warmer and cooler versions of the red. Then for greens, we have some true greens. We have yellow greens and blue greens. So the water and the sky are mostly blue-green. It's a teal color. It's like turquoise. So it's a blue, but it's got some yellow in it. So I wouldn't use like a really bright ultramarine blue so much with this, as that would be more jarring. There is some blue, but it's mostly bluish green. Does that make sense to you guys? So in art, you really want to use color intelligently. Most beginners throw every color they have at the painting and want to make these really vibrant, colorful things. Now, there's a time and a place for that. God knows I do that myself. But the smart artist will use color theory and will guide your eyes so that you're attracted to the painting based on the color theory. Does that make sense? Excellent. So now you've had a crash course in some color theory. Let's play a game before we move to the fun painting. And we're gonna neutralize with the compliments. So
Can I ask you a question, Sean, before you go on though? A while ago you said about the color chart, you know, mostly the colors on the right were warm and the colors on the left were cooler. But then you were also saying around the primary, if you look at the primary colors, then did you say then it's going to be the ones on the right are cooler and the ones on the left are warmer if you're looking at those primary? Is that what you said?
Well, it isn't a rule of thumb. So
right. But just generally, is that what you said? Did I have that right?
Yeah, pretty much. So
Okay.
when it comes to orange, the warmer version of orange would be yellow orange. A cooler version would be reddish orange. But this reddish orange is the warmer version of red. So one color may be a warmer version of another color or a cooler version of another color. So it's not, you know, all as neatly lined up as one would wish.
Yeah, that's why I was looking at violet. So the blue violet was the cooler and the red violet was the warmer. Is that
Correct.
right?
That's correct, 100%.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna neutralize with the complements. Now, this works easier using paint medium. For those who are using pencils, it may not work quite as well. But when you neutralize with the complements, you make these really cool colors, which wind up being skin tones. So I'm gonna start off by putting a little bit of red on a piece of paper here. Let me spotlight the easel so you can see that. So I put a little bit of red right here. Now I'm going to neutralize that red with some green. When I neutralize it, the two colors combine and they start to make this beautiful brown. It's a warm brown. Now you can add, you can tint it or tone it with white and get a creamy color, or darken it to get a darker color. Darken. But you still have this really beautiful, warm neutral. So a skin tone like that, you might use for, let me see here. You might use for skin that has these kinds of colors. You can see some of the parent colors in this painting. If you're using colored pencils, you can layer the colors and that will help you get closer. It won't mix as well as paint will mix. So try that on your own. Next, we're going to try the complements of blue and orange. These are directly across from each other on the color wheel. They're complements. So I'm going to start off by putting a little orange. And then I'm going to mix a little blue. Now, when these combine, you get a much darker color. Look at how dark that color is. If I tint it with a little white, it becomes grayish and cool. If I tone it with a little black, whoops, it becomes a lot darker. So that color scheme might be good for colors in this skin tone. Oops, let me go this way. So you can see how some of those colors show up in her skin tone.
Amazing. Wow.
It's a neutral. So very often we think skin tones are one size fits all and out of a tube, but it's usually the neutrals that give us those beautiful skin tones. Neutrals, by the way, are what everyone's called earth tones, or what living room furniture looked like in the 70s. Okay. So let's try violet and yellow, which are complements directly opposite each other. So I'm going to start off by mixing up a little bit of violet. And then I'm going to neutralize it with a little bit of yellow. Now this color has kind of a greenish cast to it, so it's very cool. And if you tint it with a little white, you get a very light creamy color. If you tone it with a little black, you get a darker color. Now you may see some of those tones in places where the skin has kind of a greenish cast to it. This is very similar, but much, much lighter. Much lighter. So when you neutralize with the complements, then you're broadening out whatever spectrum of paint colors you have. So most artists, when they're painting, will start off with only a handful of colors, like the primaries, plus a warmer and cooler version of each color. And they use those colors to mix every color that they need for a painting. So let's say you're wanting to do a painting and you have a reference photo. You have a reference photo that looks like this. Looking at the reference photo, what two big colors would you choose? You can unmute yourself if you want.
Blue and yellow.
That's a good choice. Anyone else? Oh, Elizabeth, I can't hear you. Okay, what were you thinking?
I don't know, it's like some kind of gray and yellow or hard to tell.
violet? Okay, so let's put it next to the color wheel.
Violet and orange.
Yes. So looking at these colors on our color wheel, so we've got a lot of yellow and orange in here. So we would probably choose yellow. And then look at how this color is more yellow-orange. And some of the colors further out can move towards the orange. And then look at how the colors up here are more violet and red violet and blue violet. Okay, so you can see that the colors that you would be using on this painting would probably be the complements of yellow and purple or yellow and violet. Does that make sense? Yeah, so you'd use warmer and cooler versions. Okay, so let's do one more and then we'll move to something simpler. How about this painting, this reference photo? What are the two main colors?
Like blue and yellow.
Okay, so as an artist, you don't have to always stick to the photo or nature. You can push it in either direction. So you could go either way with this. So you see some intense blue. So blue would definitely be one of the colors
Orange?
I would use, yes. And orange. Look at the rust on this boat. That's very orangish brown. So I would use some orange, especially in here. And then I would neutralize it with the blue to create some of this interesting rust color. So here you have like a true orange. You have some yellow orange. And you have some reddish orange and red even in the rust. So you could use yellow and orange, or I'm sorry, you could use orange and blue as one choice. You could also use red and green and stick with red for these colors and blue and, or I'm sorry, blue green, green and yellow green for the sky, just like I did on the other ship I showed you. Okay, so this is something that you'll want to play with. Now that you have this new knowledge of color and color theory, play with it at home. Play with it in your studio as you start to make paintings and such. Parade out some of your newfound knowledge of color and try it. Use a warmer and a cooler version of each color, but limit yourself to 2 colors. And that's a complementary palette.
And which one did you say neutralizes it or
All of them.
highlights it? Oh, okay.
All of them. So the complements neutralize each other. So if you combine red, violet, and yellow, green, you would get a neutral. If you combine orange and blue, you get a neutral. Anytime you mix 2 colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, you're going to wind up with a neutral. And the neutrals will all be different and unique. And they're much more beautiful than any browns that you purchase or any grays that are in your crayon box. So whenever you need a neutral, neutralize with the complements. Are you guys familiar with the Hudson River School in New York? Well, the Hudson River School did tons of sunset paintings, and 90% of the painting was a neutral. 10% would be a shot of pure color. What was really beautiful about these paintings is that thin line of orange at the horizon for the sunset really stood out because of all the neutrals around it. So the trees, the mountains, the sky, everything would be very neutral. But that thin line of color of the sunrise or the sunset would just pop. So neutrals really help to show off some of the brighter colors. So in a painting, it's good to have a mix so that you have some bright colors and more neutrals. And the neutrals will help make the bright colors really pop. Okay, so that's a pretty big chunk of color theory to try to digest all at once. Would you guys like to play? Make a play painting now? Good. All right, so get a clean sheet of paper or canvas or whatever it is that you want to use. We're going to make a very small little painting where we're combining some colors. Okay, so for this exercise, I'm using the same brush, which is a little watercolor brush. It's a bright, so it comes to a point. It's helpful if you have a brush that comes to a point. A flat brush is a little harder to work with for a subject like this. Now, we're gonna start off by making the overall shape of the carrot, and then we'll do all the greenery up top at the very end. So don't worry about it for now. So on your paper, think the shapes of the carrots are gonna go towards the center and down. Starting off on this side and working our way right, look at how yellow that is. Now notice that there's been a little bit of red added to it, so that yellow has been warmed up and turned into orange in places. So the way to capture that is we start off with a brush full of pure yellow, or if you're using colored pencils, sketch it in. I make a rounded shape of the top of the carrot, and then I lift up pressure on the brush so that as I get towards the bottom, it's just a very thin line. While that paint is still wet, dip your paintbrush into red paint and then just add a few little dots and let it mix. As it mixes with the yellow, it becomes orange and yellow-orange in places. Okay, excuse me 1 second. Now notice how that reddish paint warmed up the yellow. So the yellow started off kind of cool, and then adding that reddish paint to it really made it warmer. Okay. When you're ready, we're going to move to the violet. Now notice that the next carrot is pure violet. So to get pure violet, you mix red and blue together. Put a lot of pressure on the brush, then lift up and let the very tip of the brush do the work. Okay. Now add a little bit of blue to parts of that carrot. And you'll see how the blue really cools that violet down. Okay. When you get a chance, clean your brush. And next we're going to load up our paintbrush with orange. And we're going to make a great big fat carrot right in the middle. Okay. And once you have the shape of that great big fat orange carrot, put a little blue on your brush and neutralize parts of the carrot with the blue. Just neutralize, pull a little bit of it, make a few lines. Okay. Cheryl, you have such cute little helpers. When you're ready, dip your paintbrush in the yellow. And we're going to do another yellow carrot. This time, add a little green to the side of the carrot and let the green cool that yellow and make it more like a yellow green in places. Look at how that changes the yellow compared to the first yellow carrot. Okay. When you're ready, clean your brush and dip it in the blue again. And we're going to make another blue carrot. This time, add some red to the blue, and we're going to warm up the blue. So on these colors, you've warmed up the yellow on the first one, so you have a warm yellowish carrot. You cool down the blue on the, or the violet on the second one, so you have a cooler blue carrot. You have the orange carrot that you neutralized with blue in the middle. And then you have a cool yellow carrot where you add in a little bit of green to the yellow and change the temperature so that it's cooler. And then on the last carrot, you warmed up the blue. So now you have like a bluish violet carrot. That's a lot warmer than the one in the second. So we're gonna switch to green. And we're gonna start off with a true green. This is like half yellow, half blue. It's a very basic true green. If you have green on your palette, you can just dip into true green. And start off by making a few lines right out of the top of the carrot, and then 3 tall stems for each one. 3 tall stems. Now on top of those 3 stems, we're going to put some horizontal little slashes. Notice I'm just touching with the brush, just putting 3 or 4 little lines straight across, and it's going to read like greenery. Not going to be too precise. Okay. When you're ready, add a little bit of yellow to your green. So we're going to make the green a lot warmer and brighter. So this is going to be more of a yellow green. And we're going to do the same thing, make 3 lines coming out of each carrot. And then put a few little horizontal lines across the top. Okay, and when you're ready, put a little bit of blue in with that green, and we're going to make a blue green. And then 3 more lines using the blue green for each carrot. If you're running out of space, 2 lines is fine. We just want to have a texture of the regular green, the yellow green, and the blue green. And then put a little bit of horizontal strokes on the top and give it the impression of foliage. Now, in doing that, it helps you to see the harmony that the 3 greens have together, the true green, the yellow green, and the blue green, and see how some of them look cooler, some look warmer.
Sean, it was so fun.
Was that fun? Excellent. Are you finished? Rita, can you hold yours up and unmute? Oh, that's cute. Wow, you can see a big difference between the blues and your carrots. Like one is definitely warmer, one is cooler. That's beautiful. What do other people think? You can unmute yourself and comment if you want. Rita, put it back up there.
Oh, no.
Oh, come on. That's really cute. Cheryl, what do your little helpers think? Did they like it? Oh, we'll do hers next. Hold on. We'll do hers next. All right, let's give Rita a round of applause.
Thank you. I learned from you. I never thought about these things before.
Excellent. Well, good. I hope it changes your approach and relationship to color.
Yeah, so surprising.
Cheryl, do you want to unmute and put your work or your little helper's work up?
Oh, look so good. The different colors. Yeah, the yellow and green.
Good.
I love the carrots. What's her name?
Mona. You see Mona?
Mona. Hi, Mona. What a great job you did. Let's give Mona a round of applause.
Yay, Mona.
Nicely done. Carol, did you get a chance to do your own work?
No. No, I didn't.
You mostly helped her.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you if you want, there's going to be a recording available through the library, so you can review this and do your own version later.
That's great. Thank you.
Let's give Cheryl a big hand for being a wonderful mom. Yay.
Thank you.
Good work, Cheryl. That's a hard job. Okay, anyone else finish? Oh, Elizabeth, we'll go to you next and then we'll do it. Okay, hold on one second. Oh, that's beautiful paper.
Wow, so pretty, Libby.
Yeah, I was just ripping the edges off of it.
Love it. I love your carrots. They look like heirloom organic carrots.
Gorgeous.
Very nice. Good. Any comments?
Beautiful.
It's just how easy it is to do this stuff when we have a teacher showing us how.
Yeah, you know, some of this stuff you really have to be told by another artist, because in your normal life you would never come across color theory. Nobody thinks that deeply about color, you know.
And it's interesting because a lot of paintings that I like are abstract, and I'm understanding the reason that I'm liking them so much is how they've applied those colors. So give me something to think about.
Excellent. Let's give Elizabeth a round of applause. Good work, my friend. Cynthia, I think you had yours up. Did you want to come next? And then we'll go to Vivian after you. Lovely.
Good.
Lovely. Wow. Is this the first time you played with watercolor, or do you like watercolor?
Who, me?
Uh-huh.
A little bit.
Good. Well, you seem to have a knack for it. You did a great job with this. I love it.
Thank you.
They look very dimensional. What do other people think?
I think they look good.
Yeah, nicely done. Let's give her a round of applause. Vivian?
So this is pastels.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So vivid. I love the color.
It's really hard with pastels to try to get, you know, fine lines, I guess. I got to practice.
Okay, that's good. And you do have some wonderful tools at the end of your arm. Okay, wonderful. Any questions, comments? Let's give Vivian a round of applause. Nicely done. And Derek, did you want to show yours? Okay, I'm going to spotlight you now. You might want to unmute because we can't hear you.
Unmute. There we go. Okay.
That looks great. Now you're using watercolor pencils?
No, I switched over to pastels for these.
Okay.
Wow.
Hey, I've never seen such density of color. That looks terrific. Okay, so how was it blending all those colors with the pastels?
Yeah, it was kind of, it's interesting. You get to blend it with your hands, which is always the fun part.
Yeah, so you get dirty.
Yeah.
That's always my favorite.
The purple carrot is interesting to me with the red. Yeah.
This one here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to, the set that I have, it doesn't have a purple, like a true purple in there, so I just mixed the red and blue to make it and blended that in, and then put another bits of blue on top for the sides around them.
Well, that works really well. Very nicely done.
Thank you.
All right, any comments? Let's give Derek a round of applause. Okay, is there anyone out there who doesn't have their camera on, who would like to turn their camera on and pop in and show us your work? Okay. All right, so Matt, did somebody pop on? No. Okay, so I'm gonna switch back to me and put Derek off the hook. I would like to thank you all for signing up and taking this class. Now, there is a part 2 coming up to this, which you can register for at the library. I don't have the exact date in front of me at the moment, but it should be up on the website. And
Thank you so much, Sean. I really learned a lot today.
Oh, you're most welcome, Rita. Thank you for coming. I encourage you to play with this at home.
I will. I have more comfort and more confidence, I guess is the word.
Excellent. One of my favorite things to do is tomatoes. And if you set out a tomato and you paint it, and you paint it red, and you make the shadows in the tomato green, so you're neutralizing the red with the green, you get some really beautiful neutrals in that. So find subjects like that and play at a small scale. Make all your mistakes at a small scale. And then once you get comfortable doing it, start to incorporate some of these ideas into your artwork.
Will do.
Thank you. It was good.
September 30th is the next color theory class.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for looking that up for me. Okay, so
Would it be, may I ask, do you think it will be, maybe it's Amber on the phone, would it be maybe part 2, or is it like this same exact class? May I sign up for it?
That would be up to Sean, yeah.
It's not the same exact class. What it is neutralizing and color theory. So we're going to work with a complementary palette. So we're going to take our color wheel and we're going to use it as the basis of a painting. So it's more like a second part. It's
Second part? Oh.
If you've had this part, then it would act as a second part. If you never had this part, you would still be able to catch on.
But would we be allowed to sign up for it? Because
yes, that's fine.
Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, folks. It was a pleasure and an honor to get to work with you and Amber. And let's give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Thanks, Amber, always.
And thank you, Sean.
My pleasure. Tell your friends. There's room for quite a few people. So if you know of some people who want to join in, let them know. It's a free program thanks to Clearwater. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thanks.
Sister.